Now we come to FEMA, which is Foreign Exchange Management Act in exports. And Foreign Exchange Management Act is one of the most important acts for the exporters. And FEMA is something which was earlier called FERA. FERA was Foreign Exchange Regulation Act. Now it is called Foreign Exchange Management Act. Now the difference between the regulation and management is that earlier the government was of the attitude that all exporters are thieves and they are all the time trying to swindle the government. Now, over a period of time, was what the government realized was that barring a few percentage of exporters, the rest of them are have a fair level of integrity. They have been doing their job very well. They have been exporting in a very integral manner, and they have been earning foreign exchange for the country. And they have been facing a lot of problem because of our own policies. So they made changes to the act, and what was known as Foreign Exchange Regulation Act, it was changed to Foreign Exchange Management Act, and in which a lot of changes were made, and the new regime became far more conducive and comfortable for the exporter. So that is what we will see in Foreign Exchange Management Act. Very important and worth knowing. Because as exporter, you should definitely know about it, and by knowing this only you will be able to generate a lot of additional benefit. Other than the profit that you are making from exports, there are other features of Foreign Exchange Management Act which you can use to generate additional value for yourself. Now, why is it important to understand the exchange control regulations and facilities? Why is it important? We'll see that. There are a few of these examples over there. As an exporter, when you send the goods, then you get the payment. So when you're getting the payment in terms of foreign exchange. But other than sending the shipment, all the other things that you see on the screen right now in front of you, if you are importing inputs, let's say from China or Italy, inputs like fusing or buttons or labels or zippers, etc., you have to pay in forex. So there is outflow of forex. If you want to participate in the trade fairs which are happening outside India, you go to the other country, you buy a lot of foreign exchange, you spend money over there in hotels, stay, travel, etc., etc. Again, it's a case of outflow of foreign exchange. Then if you go on sales tours, you go to various buyers, meet them in their office, make presentations, show them samples, etc., etc. Again, you are spending money in terms of foreign exchange. If you subscribe to trade magazines, a lot of these trade magazines are there in the Munich library also. So if you subscribe to these trade magazines which are coming from outside, you have to make payments in terms of foreign exchange. If you want to advertise in foreign media, you have to pay in terms of foreign exchange. And if you have any agent who is getting orders for you, and this agent is not based in India, is based in another country, US or Europe or any other country of destination, then in that case, the commission that you give to them again will be in their currency. So there's going to be outflow of foreign exchange. So you're spending a lot of foreign exchange, and that foreign exchange will be given to you by RBI. And the only time you are getting foreign exchange is when you are sending the shipment to the buyer. So all these small payments that you are making or the payments that you are getting, these all fall under current account transactions. Just like you have a savings account and a current account, so similarly we have a current account transaction. These transactions are known as current account transactions. These are small, these are short-term period, and these are related to all these small things that we do in terms of working capital, in terms of doing business, whatever expenses that you incur or whatever money you generate from it. So you have current account transaction and then you have capital account transaction. So current account is all those small things that expenses that you incur and for doing businesses, all those transactions that happen is current account. Capital account transaction, what do capital account transactions involve? They involve investment of foreign funds on a long-term basis. So whenever money is coming from outside, that money is coming from outside for long-term purposes, for investment purposes, for for spending on machinery and equipment and on setting up of factories, etc., etc. These fall under capital account transactions. And capital account transactions are always long run or long term. Okay, so in this category, in this section, we are going to cover various exchange control regulation other than the ones we have already discussed. And we are also going to talk about facility of exchange earners foreign currency account available to the exporters. Again, I would want you to remember exchange earners foreign currency. It's a very important account, very important feature which the government gives now under Foreign Exchange Management Act. Now, this thing, exchange earners foreign currency, this was not available in FERA time. FERA was Foreign Exchange Regulation. To put it very simply, when Foreign Exchange Regulation Act was there, during that time, the exporter was facing a very uncomfortable environment. What used to happen was the day your payment came from the buyer, that let's say you were paid in terms of US dollar. So the rule at that point was that the day you get the payment in dollars, it will be converted into rupees the same day on whatever was the government rate that the government was giving. And the government rates were very bad at that time. They were far less than the market rates. Of course, later on what happened was that the government said that we will not set the rate. Let the markets decide the rate depending on the demand and supply. So the government started paying as per the market rates. That is one thing. And second is the government created this new feature called exchange earners foreign currency account. This exchange earners foreign currency account simply is an account in which an exporter can receive the payment in foreign currency and keep that foreign currency in that foreign exchange in the form of foreign currency only till such time the exporter wishes. And whichever day you want to convert those dollars or euro or pound into rupees, whichever day you want to, you can do that. And you can do that, let's say you have $1,000, you just want to convert $100 and you want to still retain $900 in dollar form only. You can do that. That's the facility that you have in exchange earners foreign currency account, which is the most important feature of Foreign Exchange Management Act, FEMA. Now, FEMA in Exchange Control Regulation, FEMA was framed by the Exchange Control Authority of India, which is RBI, according to the provisions of FEMA 1999. And three major sections of FEMA is Foreign Exchange Management, current account transaction. Current account transaction, if you remember, all the payments that you receive or you give the payments for all those small activities like buying foreign magazines or going for sales tour or attending an exhibition and advertising in foreign countries or giving the commissions. So all of that fall under current account transactions. So all the ruling related to those current account transactions is in number one, which is foreign exchange management, current account transactions. Second one is foreign exchange management, export import of goods and services. Now, what goods and services can be exported and what will be the law related to the foreign exchange management? Some goods and services cannot be sent or can be sent, but how will the foreign exchange be handled? All of that falls under the second category, in which the goods and services, all the perspectives or dimensions related to the goods and services will be included in the second one. Third one is foreign exchange management, manner of receipt and payment. How will you receive the payment? And the payments will happen through what instruments? So manner of receipt and payment, this one will be discussed in detail at the end of this session, the last part. So, not last part, in fact, immediately. So manner of realization of export procedure. This one is interesting. An exporter can receive payment in the following ways: in the form of bank draft, check, pay order, foreign currency notes, traveler's checks, from a buyer during his visit to India. What we're saying is the government says you can receive the payment in almost any form. The buyer can give you the payment by way of bank draft, or a check, or a pay order, foreign currency notes. The buyer could send you the traveler checks, or the buyer, if the buyer has come to India and wants to make the payment cash, or just transfer the money through digital transfer, all of that is allowed. That's one. Number two, the government says you can also take the money by way of debit to the FCNR or NRE account maintained by the buyer with an authorized dealer bank in India. So this one, FCNR or NRE. FCNR is foreign currency non-resident account, and NRE is non-resident external account. Now these are two different types of accounts, and both FCNR and NRE accounts, these accounts can only be opened by a buyer in India. Meaning to say, you have a buyer who has been buying from you since ages, and they feel that instead of making payment from their bank in their country to you, there are a lot of transaction costs. You have to pay bank charges and things like that. So India has given the option of FCNR and NRE account. The government allows these buyers, government of India allows these foreign buyers to open accounts in India. And there are these two types of accounts: foreign currency non-resident account and non-resident external account. These two types of accounts can be maintained by the buyer in India, and your buyer can make the payment to you through one of the banks in India. So your buyer has a bank account in India, and that bank account, through that bank account, they are going to make the payment to your bank account. So this is second way of doing it. So we'll just touch upon shortly, briefly on FCNR and NRE account. Okay, FCNR account this can only be maintained in terms of US dollar, pound, yen, and euro. It can be maintained only in term deposit. So this deposit can be done for not less than 6 months, and it cannot be the deposit cannot be made for more than 3 years. And remittance from abroad is made in the currency in which the account is maintained. Meaning to say, first time when the buyer is opening this FCNR account, if the buyer has opened the account by putting in US dollars, then each time the money which can be put in this account, each time it has to be US dollar only. And the balances and interest of this account are exempt from tax. You need to say, because this bank is in India, the foreigners have opened their account over here. So the interest which these buyers get on this account that they have in India, the government of India does not deduct the taxes. It is an account of the buyer, and the buyer will pay the taxes in their country, not in India. So that's FCNR account. So in a way, it is not an Indian account, it is the buyer's account, but it is in India. That's FCNR. Now we come to the second one, which is the NRE account, non-resident external account. So this one, it's a bank account that's opened by the buyer, and this is opened by depositing foreign currency at the time of opening a bank account. Now this currency can be tendered in the form of traveler's check or notes. So this account can simply be opened by depositing foreign currency, and can be also in terms of traveler's checks or notes. And in this case, you don't have to bother about the term. As in case of FCNR, the first second feature is that it has to be in terms of term deposit, which has to be more than 6 months but less than 3 years. But NRE accounts, there is no boundation of the time period. Okay, so we talked about first one, which was in the form of bank draft, check, etc. Second was by way of debit to the FCNR or NRE account. And third one is the buyer, when coming to India, can give you money in terms of rupees. They come here, they swipe the credit card. Obviously, in India, you will get money in rupees only. So these buyers can pay using their credit card and give you the money in terms of rupees. But the charge slips, every time you swipe the card, there is a slip which comes out. So this charge slip, it has to be, you have to ensure that it is signed by the buyer, and then you have to submit this charge slip to the bank, telling them that I have received this much rupees from my buyer for this particular shipment that I had sent. That was the third one. And the fourth one is the payment can also be made by a buyer from a rupee account held in the name of an exchange house with an authorized dealer if the amount is less than 2 lakh rupees per export transaction. Now, this is applicable in case you are a very small exporter and your shipments are, the value of the shipments are very less, like less than 2 lakh rupees per export transaction. So in that case, you have this feature. Now, what happens in this feature is that the buyer has a rupee account in India, and this rupee account is held in the name of an exchange house. So exchange house, if you have heard of Western Union and many other such exchange houses, from which you can at any given point of time in India only you can take. The Western Union is there in the airport also. So you can buy dollars or whatever currency you want. The exchange houses give you foreign currency. So in this case, fourth case, if the buyer has a rupee account in this exchange house with an authorized dealer. Now, authorized dealer is a bank like an ICICI or an HDFC or a PNB. So if the buyer has a rupee account in the name of an exchange house in such banks which are authorized dealer, and if the amount is less than 2 lakh rupees per export transaction, then this buyer can make payments to you in rupee terms. So this is also allowed by the bank. And the fifth one is, last but not the least, the fifth one is the payments can be made through RBI. The Exim Bank of India is RBI, and through RBI the payment can be made to a financial institution in the foreign country. So this happens normally when two countries are working together. If India is exporting onions or India is exporting pharmaceutical to another country, the government of India is sending to, let's say, USA hydroquinone right now, then in that case the payment may be made through this Exim Bank, and it may be made to the financial institute in USA. So USA, the central bank is called the Federal Bank of America. So in this case, the payment can be made through the Exim Bank of India, and the payment will go to the Federal Bank, or vice versa. If India is sending something, the payment will come from Federal Bank, and things like that. And if you are working with the government and you are doing government orders, then you might be getting the payment through Federal Bank, from Federal Bank in USA. You might get the payment to RBI in India, and then RBI is going to transfer the funds to your account. So by way of fifth point also, you can receive the payment. Now, this is manner of realization of export proceeds. So now we are going to talk about exchange control declaration. Exchange is when we talk about foreign exchange, and exchange control declaration is about how does the government control the foreign exchange. Money from any other country cannot enter India. Otherwise, it is going to play havoc with the economy. Similarly, rupees from India cannot leave the country and go to other markets like Afghanistan or Russia. Afghanistan and Russia are two such countries where you can actually buy things using rupees. So, but if you go to Europe, then you'll have to use euro. If you go to US, you have to use dollars. But rupees you can spend in Nepal also, in Sri Lanka also, in Pakistan also, Afghanistan also, and Russia also. So, exchange control declaration, this is fairly simple. All that the government says is that whenever you are sending shipments, you have to fill the exchange control declaration form. That form is called GR or SDF form. GR is guaranteed receipt form or statutory declaration form. In this form, what you are declaring? You are declaring full export value of the goods. If value is not ascertainable, then expected value, and that she shall realize, the exporter shall realize the export proceeds within 6 months of due date, whichever is earlier. And what we are saying is that as an exporter, you have to reveal the actual value of the goods. If the actual value cannot be ascertained, then the expected value. Meaning to say that there are a lot of products, food products and things like that. When they reach the other country, maybe 90% of the goods are okay and 10% goods go bad. The food may go bad, or something may go wrong with the packing. Or if you send something which is breakable, 90% of the goods are fine, 10% broke. So in that case, the buyer is only going to pay for the 90%, not for the rest 10% which is damaged. So in that case, you don't know the actual value of the goods. But then you can still ascertain an expected value. So that either the full value or the expected value has to be mentioned in the exchange control declaration form, and you have to give an undertaking that you will realize the export proceeds. You will realize the payment within 6 months or due date, whichever is earlier. So you have to sign it that I'm sending this, and I'll also ensure that I'll get the payment. I'm not going to just let it go. So that is what happens in the exchange control declaration form. It has to be submitted in duplicate to the Commissioner of Customs. So you submit 2 copies of the exchange control declaration to the Commissioner of Customs. Now, what happens to this exchange control declaration? At any given point of time, the government should know what is going out of the country and what is coming inside the country. So through this form, the government knows that what is going out every day. Now, what happens with this form? The exporter submits 2 copies of the declaration form. The customs, after clearance of the goods, the customs stamps the original copy and the duplicate copy of the declaration form, and the customs sends the original copy to RBI directly. So then RBI knows that you have exported these many goods of this much value. So the RBI knows this, and RBI also knows that by which date you are going to get the payment. By that date, if you don't get the payment, RBI would get to know about it, because all foreign currency comes through RBI. And if the payment does not come, RBI is going to simply shoot a mail to you that for this particular shipment, your payments have still not come. Please reply. So one copy goes to RBI, and the second copy, signed and stamped, will be given back to you. You will be submitting that to your bank, and the bank is then going to give the payment to you. So that's the entire movement of the exchange control declaration form. Now we come to the period of receiving payment. Payment should be realized and paid to authorized dealer bank on due date or within 6 months, whichever is early. Meaning to say that when you get the payments, first is you have to make all efforts to get the payment and ensure that you get the payment by the date the buyer had promised, and or get the payment within 6 months, whichever is earlier. That is your responsibility. So as a small exporter, you have to ensure that the payments come within the due date or within 6 months, whichever is earlier. Second is, if you are a big exporter, a status holder, like today you are a 1-star export house. If your average, last 3 years average export turnover was $3 million. You get a 2-star if you are doing $50 million. You get a 3-star if you are doing $100 million. You get 4-star status if you are doing $500 million. And if you get 5-star status, 5-star export house if you are doing $2,000 million every year. So in that case, if you are a status holder, you will be allowed to realize the payment in 12 months. No one will disturb you before that. And in case you have a warehouse outside India, with the permission of RBI, you may get 15 months instead of 12 months. But if you have a unit, your export house is in a special economic zone. In that case, there is no time limit. You can get the payment in any amount of time you want to. There's a period of receiving payment. Now, because there is no guarantee that things are going to go smoothly, so therefore there is also provision for the extension of time. So the limit of 6 months is if you have had agreement with the buyer in terms of LC or DP. LC is letter of credit or DP is document against payment. We will discuss letter of credit also, document against payment also. These are the manner of realization of the payment. So you get a maximum extension of 6 months if your shipment is under LC or DP, and you can get it re-extended by 6 months if required. If still things are not going good and the buyer for some reason or the other is not able to or is not ready to pay you, then you need more extension. So extension beyond 1 year will be allowed only if your total export outstanding is less than 10% of the average export realization in the last 3 years. So what we are saying is, if the shipment is under letter of credit or document against payment, you get 6 months. You can re-extend it by 6 months if required. If and you may get extension beyond 1 year, but that is only if you as an exporter, let's say you have been doing an average turnover of $1 million in the last 3 years, and right now your outstanding is less than 10% of that $1 million. So 10% of $1 million is $100,000. So if your outstanding amount is less than $100,000, then the government may give you an extension beyond 1 year. If the outstanding is more than 10% of your last 3 years average performance, you will not get any extension. You will have to get the And then we come to another great thing here, liberalized exchange rate management system. Now this one is the most important highlight of the Foreign Exchange Management Act. When FERA, Foreign Exchange Regulation Act, was changed, that we have made very life difficult for exporters and let's make it more comfortable and liberal. And FEMA came into place, Foreign Exchange Management Act, and the most important part was liberalized exchange rate management system. So Union Budget 1993-94 provided for full convertibility of rupee in current account, which means exporters can convert 100% of the export proceeds into INR at the market rate of exchange, and all imports can be paid for at market rate of exchange. The rate was less than the market exchange rate. So meaning to say that if you got $1 in your account and the market rate was 65 rupees, the government rate was anywhere around 60 rupees. So the government would give you 60 rupees instead of 65 rupees, which was the market rate. So at that point, the rupee was not convertible. With advent of time, rupee became partially convertible. Meaning to say, so partially was like 50%. So when the rupee was made 50% convertible, what it meant was that when you got that $1, then the government gave you 50 cents at the rate of the official exchange rate and converted the balance 50 cents as per the market exchange rate. So for 50 cents, that was at the rate of 60 rupees, and the rest 50 cents was at the rate of market exchange rate, which was 65 rupees. Now today, it is fully convertible, meaning to say that let's say today the market rate of dollar is 78, and same is the official exchange rate. So today, whatever US dollars or whatever money you are getting in terms of payments, all of that money will be converted at the market exchange rate. There is no particular rate which has been fixed by the government. So you can convert all that money into rupees, the market rate of exchange, so you don't lose because of foreign exchange system. And second is, all imports can be paid for at market rate of exchange. Meaning to say that when you are buying inputs, like suppose you are exporting garments, but for the garments you have to buy the labels and stitching thread and embroidery thread from China or from any other country. Then in that case, when you are making payment to these foreign raw material suppliers, in that case also you will be paying the market exchange rate, not some exorbitant exchange rate that used to be earlier. So in terms of converting your money, your payment into rupees. That also became very good in terms of market exchange rate. And then if you had to make payments also, you could make the payment in market at the rate of market exchange rate only. And then we come to this one. I had specially told you that please remember exchange earners foreign currency account. This account under Union Budget 1994-95, exporters today are allowed to retain up to a maximum of the following proportion of export proceeds in the EEFC account. So, as a merchant or a manufacturer exporter, today when you get the payments, if you get $100, you can keep $50 in this EEFC account. Rest $50 will be automatically converted into rupees the day you get the payment. If you are a 100% export oriented unit or an electronic hardware technology park or a biotechnology park, or you are you have a factory in special economic zone, or you are a status holder, in these cases, whatever money comes, you can keep all of that money in the foreign currency form in this EEFC account. The day you want to convert it to rupees, you can do it. Whatever amount, whichever day, you can do it. And you can make all payments for imports through this account, so that you do not lose because of forex rates. The features of the EEFC account, it can be maintained in the form of current or savings account in any of the permitted currencies and by any exporter with any designated branch of SBI or any public sector banks in India. Now, but when you're getting all these features, there is one thing, that the money that you will hold in this account, you will not be allowed to take credit or loans against this money that you are holding in this account. And the last point is, funds that you have in this account can be freely converted into rupees at the market rates, any day, anytime, your discretion. That's the beauty of EEFC account. And utilization of EEFC account, where will you use, suppose you have dollars in this account, where will you use this dollar? Obviously can't be used in India. So the funds in EEFC account can be used for overseas travel. You can pay with this. You can participate in the trade fair or exhibitions abroad, all the advertisement expenses for export promotion that you do in other countries. You want to undertake any market research, etc. abroad, then obviously you have to pay in terms of the foreign currency. So all that money can be used from this EEFC account. And any kind of brand publicity you want to do, or you want to do some kind of a trade or consumer sales promotion, all of that can be, the expenses can be paid through this EEFC account.